As soon as there's a request for an investigation, we get a copy of that request. We meet with the investigators, discuss the preliminary status of the case. Because we don't do the investigation, we might make recommendations to ensure that investigations are fair and thorough. And that's basically what the mission of the OIR is to ensure that the Sheriff's Department conducts internal investigations in a fair and thorough manner, and that any discipline or any other repercussions are imposed in a manner that's consistent and fair to the employees as well as the public. I'll save the rest till we get down to the policies and practices.
Okay, thank you. All right, yeah, the next question is, what is the role of the Office of Independent Review regarding LA Sheriff Department policies and practices?
Well, again, the Sheriff's Department is responsible for promulgating their own policies. We developed a relationship over the past, dare I say, 8.5 years, almost 9 years, of providing input on certain policies. Again, our input may come from looking at a particular investigation, or it may look at systemically how the Sheriff's Department does business. And we'll make recommendations. We'll either do some research on best practices, or some of us have had certain experiences that lead us to say, you might want to look at it this way. This is a fresh pair of eyes looking at this. And but it's up to the Sheriff's Department to decide whether or not they want to adopt our recommendations. You know, some may ask, well, what's your recourse if they don't? Generally, we have a pretty good relationship, but I guess our recourse is to report out. Typically, we put out an annual report. Sometimes we put out special reports on certain cases or certain changes in policy, and we explain what our recommendations were, and we talk about whether or not the Sheriff's Department adopted those recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Next question. On the OIR's website, it states, OIR welcomes information, insight, or concerns that any individual would like to share. So what is the procedure a person must follow to give their insight or give their thoughts about a particular issue? How does that work?
Well, it's fairly simple. They can pick up the phone. They can send a letter. They can email us from the website. There are really no limitations. We generally try to respond back with how the case was handled by the Sheriff's Department. And I choose those words really carefully because, again, because we have access to certain information that state law precludes from being disclosed. Oftentimes we can't tell a concerned member of the public exactly what happened as a result of their call or their complaint. I know I have a little time.
Yes.
Can I jump into something?
Yes, you
else?
can. Yes, you can.
There's really no such thing as sort of custodial nighttime release.
Okay. Share with us.
The Constitution of the United States requires that people not be unnecessarily or illegally deprived of their freedoms. And so if someone is arrested, depending on what the charges are, the law enforcement agency that arrests them either has to take them before a magistrate or court within a certain amount of time, or has to release them or cite them out. And this sort of dovetails into a little bit of this 5150. From a legal perspective, again, looking at this issue sort of as a civil rights attorney, you're talking about potentially depriving someone of their freedom again. It's an involuntary commitment to somebody for 72 hours. And the law, whether it's the federal law or state law, doesn't take that lightly. So there usually has to be probable cause that allows someone to take an individual to an institution or a medical facility. And that's the right thing to do, especially in Los Angeles, given the size. There are a lot of people who may, from the outside, look like they should be committed. But that particular section requires a clear and present danger, which means an immediate danger that someone is either going to be harmful to themselves or to someone else, or that it's clearly noticeable that they cannot take care of themselves. They're gravely disabled or incapacitated. So again, the law wants most people not to be deprived of their freedom unnecessarily or illegally.
Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
With us from your perspective, exactly what is the right terminology and what's the meaning of it?
After I figure out how close to hold this, I will. Okay, here we go. I actually did write a note that's similar to the one that Ben just explained. Custodial nighttime release is not a term we use in the Sheriff's Department frequently. It's the first time I've heard it actually in reference to this panel. The fact is, it refers obviously to the practice of releasing people in darkness during nighttime. We have about 180,000 prisoners come into our custody each year. That varies from 160 to 200, I suppose, depending on the year. That's how many people we arrest or remanded into our custody by the courts. And we go into any one of 23 sheriff station jails and also into our 10 or so custody facilities. The bulk of those people are released because it's a county jail and they're not in there for a long periods of time. They're released at all hours of the day right now in almost every case in every facility we have except for one. It's been the practice to do it that way mostly because of the volume of people that we have to release, and also because of what Ben talked about, the fact that we're not legally able to hold them for a long period of time after they're legally releasable. We've had some problems with the courts in the past about over-detentions, and so we try to do it promptly as the state law requires and as case law requires. And that's the best explanation I can give you for why the word nighttime is in the concept that we constantly release prisoners from jail who are booked there and haven't been arrested.
So what do you call that? What you just call it release or?
Pretty much just release, yeah. I mean, once the person's in custody, we generally refer to the fact that at some point it's time to release them. There are inmate reception centers at both the women's and men's jails where we have a release area. It's merely called the release area. And that's where prisoners are ultimately processed out. At station jails, again, the term is this inmate ready for release or has this inmate been released? We don't refer so much to the time of day as just the fact that they're releasable or have been released.
Okay, thank you.